This NFL Films production is a presentation of the National Football League.
The game of pro football is an heirloom, passed from generation to generation. Its value can be seen in sons following in the footsteps of their fathers. It can be seen in the pride a mother takes in watching her sons playing the game with passion. Football is an unbreakable bond between families. What starts with a simple game of catch gains meaning with each passing season.
It has really been a great individual relationship with me because they're my friends. When we go on the field, they're friends, they're buddies.
I really think that football is an important thing for a young man to play.
It really makes men out of youth.
Great-grandpa tells you a little bit what it's all about, and what I don't tell you about, Uncle Mike and your dad tells you.
This is a story about families who have grown up in the sport of football, sharing the game as they share their lives. Like the turn of the seasons, the ever-changing landscape of the National Football League continues to evolve at the dawn of a new century. But at the heart of professional football lies a family game. And for father and son players like Archie and Peyton Manning, football and family are kept in perspective.
We had a wonderful life here in New Orleans, and we were just trying to raise a family. You know, we weren't trying to raise professional football players.
Who's your favorite football player, man?
My dad.
Your dad's your favorite football player, too? Well, you're on the right track. You're going to be a football player when you grow up?
Mm-hmm.
And he did other things well. I mean, he was a good student, and we did other things, and he happened to like it a lot. He worked hard at it. It paid off for him.
I've heard stories about other athletes, and they pushed their kids, and the kid was a great athlete but just got burned out, so I'm just thankful for the way they handled the whole situation.
Like Manning, Hall of Fame quarterback Bob Griese did not wish for his three sons to follow in his footsteps, but his youngest son, Brian, had other ideas.
When Brian came along, the youngest of the three, his attitude was, I don't care, I'll play quarterback, I'll make him forget about you. But I didn't want any unnecessary pressure on him to say, hey, you got to do what your dad did. It didn't work that way, and I was trying to take that pressure off of him.
Brian may play in the modern era, but his heart belongs to the golden ages of pro football.
I think I'd have to play back in his day, you know, where guys stick around for a longer period of time and there's not as much commercialization of the game. You're not paid as much, but you don't need to be paid as much. And the integrity of the game, I think, was stronger back then. Now, there's really no loyalty to any one team.
I think most players think that they're in the best place. I got my 3 cars.
I got skills to make meals, baby.
I got my vacation house. I have what I want. If I lived 30 years ago, I wouldn't have that stuff.
Something the players of the past did have was a chemistry, a family atmosphere both on and off the field.
Back when we had our teams of the 70s, they didn't have the free agency and the movement. The players would stay a little longer. Teams were built from the drafts. You got to know the people, you got to know the wives, you got to know the kids. And I don't know how they do it today.
What today's players may have lost in the passing of time, is perhaps made up for with the emergence of new technologies.
You come off on the sideline and you got a photograph to look at the team. We used to draw, the coach used to draw up the X's and O's, and this is what they were doing. And then you hear in your ear what the play is. And as you're walking to the line of scrimmage, you're probably saying, now if it blitzed, look at this guy and what are you going to do with the ball? We used to have to worry about that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday.
But unlike the days of old, today's information superhighway can at times be filled with roadblocks, as Brian found out last season in a game against Tampa Bay.
Before the game, one of our assistants comes over to me and says, "Well, Brian, I've been having a little problem with the speaker in your helmet. The frequencies, the wavelengths in the stadium, we've been getting some signals from some of the boats out in the bay." Sure enough, second play of the game, I'm out there on the field and I hear a radio transmission from a boat out in the bay. I'm trying to listen for the play from the sidelines, and I'm hearing this guy giving me his coordinates, and I'm 49 west and 53 north. What am I supposed to do now? So I had to come out and call a play. And well, isn't that a bad situation?
Known best for his intellectual approach to the game, Bob Greasy is no stranger to calling his own plays.
Just the difference between the games and their undefeated season. He called all the plays, and in today's game, that's impossible. Nowadays, we have 300, 400 plays each week going into a game, and so there's no possible way that I could call the plays. It would be tough to call the plays today simply because of substitutions. I mean, every play you see 1, 2, 3, or 4 guys coming in and out.
44 on hard carry.
I think these quarterbacks today are playing a totally different game than we played. I think it's 10 times harder. When I came in, the quarterback had some cerebral responsibility, but it's harder than ever now.
It's easier. They're getting pictures on the sideline. They get phone calls in their ear telling you where to throw the ball if that guy. Now, Brian, if that guy blitzes, be sure you throw the ball to this guy over here. Mm-hmm. And we're going to pay you a hell of a lot more than we paid your dad. You done?
But there can be no doubt that the pace of the game has changed.
The game is quicker, it's faster. The defensive guys are lighter.
These year-round weightlifting programs, speed, emphasis on nutrition, just things that are different than 25, 30 years ago. That you're talking about just unbelievable athletes out there.
But today's strength programs are not just limited to defenders.
That's going to be my tackle for the day. I hope the chairs hold up. We're getting bigger and stronger. The defensive ends aren't these big 300-pounders. They're linebackers that have grown, oversized linebackers playing defensive end that can rush the passer.
Linebackers, when I came into the league, if you were 6'1", 215, 20 pounds, you could play. You know, now the linebackers 6'4", 255, runs 4'5". I mean, these incredible athletes.
The defensive tackles now, look at Warren Sapp. He was a tight end in high school. I saw him at the University of Miami, and he could outrun in sprints everybody except the wide receivers. Who was like that in your day? We had guys like Merlin Olsen, Deacon Jones, Bubba Smith. Bubba Smith was probably the biggest and quickest defensive end back then. How about Lambert? What was he like?
Double wing right.
He was quick. He could run. The defense of Pittsburgh is probably the first one that's like these defenses now. They all could run. Joe Green could run. Was that the game that he intimidated you and you lined up under the center or under the guard? Have you ever lined up under the guard? Never. Oh, bull. There's 5 guys there. I mean, there's 5 linemen. There's one uneven right in the middle. How hard is it to catch the one in the middle? One guy's butt's smaller than the other 4, huh? That's true, too. You know, if you haven't lined up under the wrong guy, you haven't played long enough. Obviously. I mean, you break the huddle, and I turn around, and I'm talking to Zoc. Zoc doesn't know what the snap count is or something, so I turn around, hey, Zoc, you know, so I turn around, and I'm looking at the defense. I'm not looking at the center. He's always right there in front of me, and I stick my hands under what I think is my center. It's my right guard, Larry Little. He jumps about 6 feet in here. I said, "What you doing, boy?" That was early in my career, too. He didn't know me from Adam, so he was kind of wondering.
As the sun rises on a new century of play for the National Football League, pro football's rich legacy continues to shine. But despite its growth, one thing is certain to never change.
The atmosphere around the stadium. You know, I come out of the locker room and I run out and the field is freshly painted and we go out there to warm up. It's such a feeling like you're walking on air.
The fans are still what the game is about. They cheer you on Sundays in the stadiums and watch you on TV. I think that's still today why I have such a love for the game, why I have so much fun playing football.
There's a little bounce in your step, and you always look forward to Sunday afternoons, and if that's not the most special time in your life, then you're in the wrong business. And I don't think it'll ever change for anybody that plays in the NFL.
The name Rooney has become synonymous with Pittsburgh Steelers football. Art Rooney Sr. handed the team down to his son Dan, and a third generation is prepared to take over.
It's more than just a family business, it's really part of the family identity.
Art Rooney wasn't an instant Pittsburgh icon. For decades, almost everything they did blew up in their face, and they were known more as lovable losers than anything else.
He really wasn't in the game for money. He had to struggle in the early years just to stay in the business.
When the team did start to make money, it really didn't matter to him. I mean, it's hard to describe. I remember one year after he had started to give money to charities and things like this that we lost, that we had a losing financial year. And I said to him, I don't think you can make those contributions. He said, I don't give my money because of a tax deduction. He says, give the money, even though we had lost. And that was the way he looked at it.
Art Rooney was a man of the people, and his team loved him for it.
Just to show how the players really did like my father, I remember that somebody wanted a back, so it was a little bit bigger guy than just a receiver. Caught a pass and was running and ran right into him and knocked him over on the sideline. And these players all ran up, they ran off the field and picked him up. They were scared to death that, that he really would have gotten hurt.
Art Rooney. Boy, I love that man. I know you're watching, Art. I love you.
My father, one of the early men who did everything to make the NFL succeed. It is special to join him here.
In the 1970s, the team gave Art Rooney his greatest gift, a winner.
Fires it downfield. And there's a collision. It's caught out of the air. The ball is pulled in by Franco Harris. Harris is going for a touchdown for Pittsburgh. Harris is going.
And this team just built and gelled and came on. I mean, it was just like you were walking on air.
Super Bowl IX was Art Rooney's Super Bowl.
That was like the game for him, of all the games that the Steelers ever played.
Seeing my grandfather accept that first trophy, it was just hard to describe the feeling.
The Super Bowl trophy was one thing, but when Andy Russell handed him the ball and he held that ball up, I think that just symbolized the whole thing. It was so meaningful for him. It just such a tremendous thing.
While fathers see some of themselves in their sons on the field, the Barber brothers see themselves in each other, literally.
Twins are like a freak of nature. It doesn't happen all the time. I don't know, it's weird. Some twins, they live to be twins. Like, they make their living out of being a twin. But to me and Ronnie, it's my brother.
They played together in elementary school, high school, and at the University of Virginia, but were separated by the NFL draft.
What's up, baby? Yo, man, got a busted head.
I know, man. My helmet attacked me, dog.
They got him looking like the hunchback of Notre Dame out here.
Just like being each other's company. That's why we always were together in high school, and that's why we wanted to go to the same school together. We lived together in college for 4 years. It's because you like to come home and just be comfortable with someone. You don't have to be pretentious with them. You don't have to, you can just tell them how it is, You don't have to expect anything. It's just, hey, this guy's part me.
Rondé went to Tampa Bay, becoming one of the premier players on the league's best defense.
Back in the pocket, screen
right.
Tiki went to New York, becoming a versatile running back for the Giants.
Up to the 40. There goes Tiki Barber.
Two cities with two very different personalities made the twins appreciate their differences all the more.
Touchdown, Tiki Barber.
Tampa Bay was boring. I go down and visit. He's like, don't you want to live down here? I'm like, there's nothing to do. It's led to separate lifestyles now. Yeah. We're completely different now than we were in college. I'm so New York. Last night I was driving him back from the airport. Oh, yeah. And he's sitting back there. He's like, I'm significantly scared right now. Because I drive crazy now. I mean, first when I got here, I was timid, you know. Oh, don't hit me. Oh, don't hit me. And I'm like, get the hell out of the way. Get the hell out of the way. I drive like a New Yorker now. I drive like a cabbie now. That's what it is. You can't help it. You got to. Other than that, I mean, we're still the same. I mean, we still watch, I'm sure he still watches cartoons just like I do. I don't know if you're into love stories yet or not that sensitive yet. I am, but I just don't like watching it. I mean, for the most part, crap. It's not real. Right. For the most part, well, neither is Star Wars, but still. Yeah, but you know it's fake. Yeah, it's true. Love stories, they make it real. Dawson's Creek, they make it seem real. It's not real. And I know you watch it. He meets her in like 2 days. Like the next day, he's like, I'll go anywhere for you. I promise you, I won't leave you.
Their father did leave them and their mother, forcing them to rely on each other.
I think that's why we're so close. Sometimes I didn't have a rock. I didn't have a father. I had my brother. And that's why we've come so far together.
Hey, where's my knucklehead brother at?
When the Giants and Buccaneers play, the biggest fan is also the most conflicted.
When Rondé's on the field, Rondé, that was a good hit, you know, and when Tiki's carrying the ball, it's come on, baby, go, baby, go, baby. And I just kind of rule out the team and rule out everything other than Tiki's playing or Rondé's playing.
She knows what we go through. It's not like she's just out there with no clue about the game.
Geraldine watches with the eyes of a fan, but feels with the heart of a mother.
He's got to be frustrated. I'm so worried about Tiki not getting in on third down that I'm missing Rondé's tackle.
Tell him to throw it. I need that pick. You see that? You ain't catch it.
The best part for me at that game is at the end of the game when they go up and congratulate each other. Now that's when everything else drops away and you see the family.
We don't live to be twins. Yeah. We're brothers. As much as I need to hear his voice and talk to him, it's not important for me to be, hey, look at us, we're twins. Yeah. Hey, you right there, look at us, we're twins. It's not important to me. Important to me is that I have a brother who loves me. I love him, and we don't make a big deal out of it.
While Bum Phillips' homespun personality was totally Texas, Wade Phillips' lone stardom is more low-key. But on the sidelines, Wade's the proverbial chip off the old block.
They got it! Go, Wally, go! Go, 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 Bruce! All day! And all day! Touchdown! Touchdown! Yes, sir!
I'm not too sure we're a whole lot alike. He don't drink and I do, and he don't ride horses and I do.
I patterned most of my coaching, from my dad, certainly. I think you're influenced by your father anyway, and then when you go into the same profession, you tend to do a lot of the same things.
He worked for me in Houston for 5 years and in New Orleans for 5. He's the only one I knew I couldn't fire without a divorce, so I may have been a little harder on him. Now, look back on it, I probably was a little harder on him.
I've always been proud that I'm his son and he's my dad. But I'm proud I work for him, as a lot of other guys can say the same thing.
12 weeks into the 1985 season, Bum resigned as head coach of the struggling Saints. Wade was named as his father's interim replacement.
It was difficult taking over New Orleans.
We didn't have a real good team.
No matter what. He retired, and he was really hadn't looked back since then, and has enjoyed his life as a rancher really since then, although he coaches me a lot. We still talk football. I talk to him after the game usually. He tells me what we should have done. No, we talk about football. Football is a big part of our lives.
I don't have as much influence as I used to have, though. I used to could say something and you paid more attention.
Well, you were the head coach.
One thing I want you to remember, football is only a small part of your life. It ain't life or death out there.
In fact, football was always a large part of Bum Phillips' life, and that all-consuming passion has been passed on to the next generation.
I took a week off, and that's all. I've taken 1 week off in 38 years that I coached, and it was miserable. I would rather have been up there looking at film and talking football and messing with the kids. I just enjoyed it. Any football coach that's successful enjoys coaching. I mean, that's the only thing in their life. Nothing else makes them different. And unfortunately, sometimes you sacrifice some things for that. You sacrifice time with your family and your church and your hobbies and stuff. You don't got no hobby. If you're a coach, you don't have a hobby. Football is your hobby. It's your love, it's your first love, and it's your last love. I live for football just like he does.
Get it out of there, get it out of there, get it out of there, get it out of there. That's the way to go after football,
Jim Mora has also devoted his life to the game. But son Jim's priorities are slightly different from his father's.
Deny it. Be patient, 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 patient.
Their names aren't quite the same either.
You lunched.
If I knew he was going to be a coach, I wouldn't have named him Jim. Now, he's not a junior. He's got a different middle name.
They got to deal with that all the time.
Yeah, I mean Jim Mora Jr. But I wouldn't have named him Jim. I'd named him Bill or Larry.
There you go. Stay on it, get it out of there, go score, out of the way.
The younger Mora began his NFL coaching career as a defensive assistant with the Chargers. When his dad's Saints came to San Diego in 1988, the son's loyalties were conflicted.
When I was with the Chargers, I used to have a Saints fleur-de-lis behind my watch during the games because I felt like I was there for them, And it was towards the end of the game, and the Chargers fumbled, and Sam Mills recovered it. And I remember jumping up in the press box and going, "We got it!" like that. And Ron Lynn looked at me, and I'm like, "God, they got it!"
In 1992, young Jim became the Saints' secondary coach. One of his toughest decisions involved what to call the boss.
I always wondered if you had a hard time calling me Dad around that.
Yeah, that was the hardest thing on the field. Okay, yeah, everyone asked me that. Guys, what'd you call your dad? And I said, well, I called him Dad. Yeah. They said, was that kind of weird? And I said, the only time it was weird was at practice. We're out on the field, and I got to yell to him 30 yards away. Do I yell, hey, Coach Mora? Or do I yell, hey, Dad? One of the places. So I just, so what do you call it? I call him Dad.
That's all right. Coach him up. We are. Don't be scared. I'll tell your dad. I'll tell your dad you're scared.
I wanted him to succeed on his own because of him being a good coach. I didn't want people to think he was coaching in the NFL because he was my kid. I wouldn't want him coaching for me right now. He's a great coach, but I think it's best for him to be with somebody else making his own mark, where people aren't always saying, well, he's Jim Mora's son. That's not good.
Drive on that, drive on it, drive on it, drive on it. Oh, no. Hey, Mickey.
I've coached with Jim, so I know this, and he's coached with me. If I've seen him do things that I've done, we have a tendency, to lose it sometimes.
Where was his pose? Where was his safety? Gosh darn. I want to see you get up here quick. Get under control. Don't cross over. Slide your feet, shuffle. Back flat, eyes up.
I know you have because you told me you have.
And we all know you have.
Probably.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
We couldn't do diddly poo offensively. We couldn't complete a pass. We sucked. The second half, we sucked. We couldn't stop the run. Every time they got the ball, they went down and got points. We got our ass totally kicked in the second half. That's what it boiled down to. It was a horse performance in the second half. Horse. I'm totally embarrassed and totally ashamed.
He might be a little bit more laid back than I am. I definitely think he is. Probably handles losses a lot better than I do. I'm sure it's tough on him, but I think he can come home and enjoy his family after a tough loss better than I can or could at any time in my career. It sticks with me a long time, and I have a hard time getting rid of it and just coming home and enjoying the family regardless of what happened. He's better at that than I am, and I admire him for that.
Well, that's because I've gotten to see it firsthand. When you grow up as a coach's kid, kids, they don't care whether you win or lose. All they care is that you come through the front door and you're their dad. So, having been a coach's kid and knowing how I felt and how I want my kids to feel when I come home. I don't want them to know whether we won or lost or how it's affecting me, so I'm able to leave my work at work.
It's tough on you tall guys, isn't it?
How he handles it is great. He still works his tail off and gets the job done, but spends a lot of quality time with his family. I would like to have been able to do it over again. I think I would have done a better job.
Yeah, I've been around coaches that it's their kid's birthday and they want to leave an hour early, and they won't leave an hour early to go to their kid's birthday party. Or, you know, I mean, to me that's ridiculous. Steve Mariucci's the same way. I mean, he's got young kids. He understands. We bring the parties to us. You know, if we have birthday parties, they come to the office during the season. So, you know, a lot of older coaches would say, "Oh, you can't do that. We're working."
No, I wouldn't have had them at parties. Although I think,
when you had grandkids, it changed, because when you had grandkids, then they'd come around, and that was different.
Yeah.
After 13 seasons as an NFL head coach, Jim Mora has also mellowed in other ways.
The older I get, I think I have a little bit more compassion for the players. Not that I've relaxed my standards any, but I really feel like I'm closer to players now at this stage of my career than I was, say, 7, 8, 9 years ago. I don't worry about the respect factor, and I can still joke around them, kid with them, have a good time, get to be friends with them, you know. I have more confidence in my ability to do that.
He can do that now. He's won over 100 games and had success. The younger players aren't going to question that. They respect him.
That's what my dad always taught me right here. Coming here.
It was inevitable that this son would follow in his father's footsteps.
Every day since I've been alive, you know, football has been a part of it. Going to games and practices and in the locker room. There hasn't been one day that this family hasn't been employed by football since I've been born, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it seems pretty natural.
For Tony Dorsett and his son Anthony, family has always come first.
I think you keep everything in perspective. You understand that your job is your job, your family is your family. Take care of your children, and that comes first.
I never looked at him as, this big time great football player. I just always looked at him as just being my dad.
Tony was more than just a great football player. He was a Hall of Fame running back for the Dallas Cowboys. He set numerous records, including one that can't be broken. A 99-yard touchdown run against the Vikings.
Hand off Dorsett at the middle. Here he goes. Cuts to his right. Going all the way. Go. To the 30. To the 40. He's got 2 men to beat. To the 40.
Tony knew early on that his son had athletic gifts, but never pushed him into a life of football.
I figured if it was something that he wanted to get into, then I was going to let that be a natural progression. I was not going to say, here's a football, go out there and run. Fruit doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah, Well, it's the basic, it's the basic progression as a child. You're outside, you learn to walk, you learn to crawl, walk, run, you know what I mean? Then games began.
This group right here, man, in every phase.
Anthony ended up as a defensive back for the Titans and now the Raiders, but not before trying his dad's old position.
First year Pop Warner ball, played running back, and I was pretty good too. It was like once I started playing, and like I said, as my first year, I did so well, it was like, well, this ain't nothing, and
prima donna,
basically. But everything worked out right for me.
A 6th-round draft choice, Anthony broke into the NFL on special teams before eventually cracking the Titans' starting lineup.
I'll tell you, this guy is a living testament that through hard work, if you focus your energies, enough of your energies in the right direction, we both are. I mean, you can accomplish whatever you want to in life.
Anthony's best accomplishment so far is starting in Super Bowl 34.
I'm standing on the sideline, and there's my son warming up for the game, and it's taking everything in my power, because I'm a crybaby. I mean, I cry more than Dick Vermeil. I mean, I just cry. And I'm standing there, man, and it took everything in my power to sit there. All I'm thinking about, is here's Anthony getting this chance to play in one of the biggest games of his life.
As Anthony showed what a promising future he has, all his father could think of was the past.
I just went back through it, man, and seeing this, him as a little kid, running around, And now look where he's at. You know, he's a little skinny little kid with the little glasses on. I just kind of look like Orko. What's his name? Urkel. See, but and then to see him grow up into this, you know, this physical specimen, man. I mean, man, I'm just proud of him. I can't be any prouder.
San Diego quarterback Dan Fouts ranks among the most prolific passers in NFL history. Fouts still keeps a high profile in pro football, and he recently joined a different kind of team.
Inducted into the Hall of Fame 7 years ago was Dan Fouts, the great San Diego quarterback after an illustrious 15-year career. My new partner on Monday Night, Dan, great to be with you.
Dan Fouts grew up around the football field and the broadcast booth. The voice of his father, Bob Fouts, enhanced the soundtrack for many an NFL epic.
Hoping to make the playoffs and ultimately the Super Bowl.
This is Bob Fouts reminding you to be at Kezar Stadium in '65 and see for yourself that there's no football like 49er pro football.
On this field at Kezar is where Dan played high school football. This is where it all started for him. And then he became a ball boy out here for the 49ers, and then my stat man on CBS television when we did the games.
Well, I'm one of 5 children, and being children of a broadcaster, we watched him every night on television. And the great thing was on Sundays, he got to do all the 49er games. Prior to each season, we'd spend time at training camp over at St. Mary's with Dad and the 49ers.
The drudgery of the rigorous training program is relieved by the 49ers annual Family Day picnic.
Not only did we get to go to training camp and hang around the players, but oftentimes Dad would have some of them over for dinner. It wasn't unusual to have Y.A. Tittle or Hugh McElhaney over for dinner, or Billy Wilson, and you know, after dinner going out on the street and having Tittle throw the ball the length of the street for about 10 kids on the block. I wore number 14 with the Chargers because that's what was Tittle's number with the Niners. Their most famous play was the alley-oop, when Tittle would go back and loft it down the field to R.C. Owens, and R.C. would out-jump everybody for the touchdown. You can still hear those calls ringing throughout Kezar that this has got to be the alley-oop.
This has got to be the alley-oop. There is no time for anything else. Tittle throws. Owens is double teamed. He's going downfield near the goal line. He goes up.
And sure enough, Tittle would throw it and make my dad look like he knew what he was talking about.
Dan Fouts produced plenty of dramatic moments during his own storied career, and he attained the same stature as the heroes he idolized during his boyhood. While Fouts was a quarterback who could carry a team, the way he carried himself meant more to his dad.
What I most cherished is other coaches and other players who said, he's a team man, he's a fine gentleman, on or off the field. I think that meant more to me than all the accolades that he got.
I stand before you today on the steps of the Hall of Fame and tell you that without a doubt, I'm the luckiest man in the world. Lucky to have a family that supported me through the good times and the bad. A mother and father who, when I went to them when I was 11 years old and asked permission to play football, they both told me I had to play quarterback or I couldn't play at all.
Ask him why I had to be a quarterback. I wanted to be an end.
Well, I read about the salaries, for one thing.
Well, he told me I couldn't play any other position. If I wanted to play, I had to play quarterback.
Well, you know, I haven't asked you for a dime, have I? Okay. Anyway, I think one of the things...
Are you going to?
Well, I'm thinking about it.
You know, I'm just looking forward to getting out there and winging it like
After retiring in 1987, Dan went into the family business, broadcasting.
I think that a lot of sons follow their fathers because their fathers are their first role models. We worked a couple preseason games together for the Chargers a few years back.
And alongside of me here is one of my 5 children. This is one of the smaller of the ones. And, you know, you missed a great ball game last week up in San Francisco, your old stomping grounds.
It was interesting working with Dan. We didn't overlap, I don't think, and he didn't second guess me, and
he never let me talk. Typical play-by-play guy, never lets a guy in.
I think it's the toughest job in the world because you only have a certain number of seconds to say something meaningful, and there's so much going on. It's a tough job, and I admire the way he's taken it as far as he has.
Sports is the greatest. It's a dream come true to be able to be a kid and play ball as a kid, and then all of a sudden now you're an adult and you're still playing ball and you're still acting like a kid and you're having fun and you're getting paid. And really, sports broadcasting is just an extension of that.
Now that he's joined the Monday Night Football team, Dan Fouts has reached the pinnacle of another profession.
When I walk into my den, it sometimes sets me back because I look up on the wall and see Y.A. Tittle and Joe Perry and Hugh McElhaney and all the great stars of my era when I was doing the NFL on CBS television. And to realize on this picture over here is of Dan Fouts, and he's in the Hall of Fame. It just amazes me because I remember when he was a skinny 125-pounder playing high school football, and to see all he's achieved, both on the field as a football player and in this business of television broadcasting. It's very gratifying, and I'm tremendously appreciative of the type of hard work he put into it and what he's accomplished, because I'm really proud of him.
Passion for pro football is not the exclusive birthright of players and coaches. Families of fans transfer their love of the game down through the generations.
Well, you ready for the big game, Christian? Are you excited? Cool.
In Green Bay, where football is family, Leonard Liebman, his son Mike, and grandson Eric Haas are teaching their newest generation about the Packers.
I think they're going to throw again.
See what's going to happen on this one. Oh, look at him throw that thing. Beautiful. That far, he improvises more than anybody I've ever seen. It's a great thing to sit here with these two boys, to have them come into Lambeau Field and be sure that it gets into their system at an early age. Great-grandpa tells you a little bit what it's all about, and what I don't tell you about, Uncle Mike and your dad tells you, huh? Isn't that right? Sure it is, boy.
Just ask him who's number one.
Who's number one?
Who is?
Who's
number one?
Brett Favre.
Brett Favre. You bet.
Yeah.
You bet. Who stinks?
The Bears.
The Bears stink. Absolutely.
Down through the years, the history of the Packers and this family are intertwined.
You got to go back to the beginning. My great-grandfather played for the Packers for one day, made it through one scrimmage, broke his collarbone. That was it. He was on the board of directors for years and years and years and years. As a family, we've been here since the beginning.
I saw my first Packer game when I was 7 years old. I'm 86, so I've seen a few of it. Come on, baby! Maybe I'm using the wrong word here, but it's like a bad infection. It just infects, and boy, it hits you. And you can't get rid of it.
You're either cheering together or cussing together,
yeah,
one
well,
or two.
I'll tell you what, we don't do, I don't do too much of that. I'm too old now. Oh, baloney.
Don't be spoofing there. We've seen you in action.
Oh yeah.
We've seen those footstools fly in the living room at home.
There it is. You gotta touch him, even if he's down on the ground. He gets up, he can run, and that's just what he did. How dumb can you get?
Sunday was always a big day. Sunday was the day that we went to early mass, and Father Gill would skip through the sermon and get us out of there early, and we'd get out here so that Dad could see the water boys warm up. I mean, that was important to see how the guys were punting.
Josh Bidwell looks awfully good out there on the punting. He's going to be the punter. There's no getting away from him. Bidwell punting back, snap is good, follow through,
good kick.
Up in the sky, hang time.
Ooh, Schrader caught.
Schrader, that baby. You give him an opening, he's gone.
Packer games were something that we always did together. We go down to Van Abel's after the games and gather for a family-style chicken dinner.
Look at all the food. You can't eat all the food they put out here.
It gives you a chance to not only discuss the football game, but just catch up on the news of the family. So what your children have been doing, your grandchildren. That's the thing that the Packer experience does.
This am homemade.
It's an excuse to get together and not only enjoy the football, but enjoy each other and the things that are happening in each other's lives.
What does it say down here on this white thing?
Clark Hinkle, inducted to the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame in 1972.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah. What do you think of that, Keaton? Pretty neat, huh?
In tracing the history of the team, years of shared family memories resurface.
How many of these guys do you know personally? Would you remember Star when you first came here?
Oh, sure. I remember when he used to come to dinner over at the house. And I remember going to practice. I remember being in his office. And in fact, right where that picture was taken, they're the type of people that you look up to, especially as a kid.
This is a program from the first game you took me to, back in 1952, the Bears versus the Packers.
Yeah.
That was at Old City Stadium.
That's right. You're right.
You got a lot of bang for the buck, too. You could get, into the game, a beer and a program for a buck.
Yeah.
The family also stood witness at the Packers' most memorable game.
It's called!
I can remember the famous Ice Bowl game. I sold programs here. And although I was here, I'll be quite honest with you, I spent most of my time in the men's john, because that was the only place where it was warm enough to breathe.
He may have left the stand to warm up, but his father stayed put.
I didn't have a seat. All I had was that stack of programs.
Yeah, well, that's your fault.
Well, no, it was your fault, because you didn't give me a seat to the game.
What do you expect me to do? I can't put a gun to somebody to give me your seat. This place is full, and people are all bundled up, but they're staying until the end.
Well, they stayed till the end because they couldn't move.
Oh, yeah, they can move all right.
And the Green Bay Packers are going to be world champions.
Hey, baby. Bubba, work hard, boys, work hard. Be sure you don't overtax the bike, huh?
I am too.
For this family, devotion to their team is the birthright that binds one generation to the next.
Pepperoni and the cheese. Pepperoni the second time.
Things that they're going to learn is the history of the Packers, how it all relates within our family also. They're going to have a part in them, part of the Packers. You know, they'll feel it inside them.
They'll grow up with it in their system just like great-grandpa did. It'll be part of their lives.
There's something special about a son following in his father's footsteps, and something remarkable about four sons doing it.
I'm an offensive assistant coach with the Miami Dolphins. This is my first year with them. Right now I'm a backup quarterback with the New York Giants.
Eastern area talent scout for the Dallas Cowboys.
Quarterback coach with the Arizona Cardinals.
I'm an English teacher and football coach at University School in Cleveland.
We were kind of talking about next year's schedule, and Jason and I open up against each other in the Meadowlands, and we were saying, oh, do you guys play the Dolphins where Judd is? And, oh, we don't have any Monday night games, and, well, we play 2 Sunday night games, and my wife said, this is really strange. I bet no one in the country is having this conversation right now.
It has really been a great individual relationship with me because they're my friends. When we go on the field, they're friends, they're buddies. We talk football, and it's not a dad saying this or a son saying that. We're all friends, we're all in football.
Now a quarterback for the Giants, Jason spent most of his career backing up Troy Aikman in Dallas.
Motion right to left, blitz is on. Play fake, Garrett.
It was a dream job, and in fact, some considered it pure fantasy.
In for an easy touchdown.
A friend of my son, who's 7 years old, the friend's mother comes down and talks to my wife and says, you know, I'm concerned about your son Calvin because he's telling lies. He's telling everybody that his uncle plays for the Dallas Cowboys and he knows Troy Aikman.
Our father loved the game so much that his passion, his enthusiasm was just so infectious.
Their father instilled in them this passion for everything. If you're going to get a drink of water, suck up every drop. That's just indicative of the way the whole family is. I have seen 3 of these guys play football, and they play every play like it's the most important thing they're ever going to do in their lives, and it's a tribute to their father.
My father and I saw John play Cincinnati versus Houston, the 2 catches he has in the NFL. It was a frigid day in Cincinnati, and it was the best experience that I can think of.
When any Garrett is playing, they become each other's biggest fans.
You're praying and hoping. Of course, the Dallas Green Bay game on Thanksgiving. We were all here in Monmouth Beach, all gathered around the TV. Just what could we do except pray and hope? And same thing with Judd when when he played, especially in the World Bowl championship the first year. He had one of the great games ever, and we were all at the same time watching, hoping, praying.
Their boyish love for the game that grew in adolescence has stayed throughout their path to adulthood.
The players that are successful in the NFL have the same love for the game.
I think if you can bring that, it sounds like a cliche, the sort of the boyish enthusiasm to it, I think you're way ahead of the game. If you treat it too much like a profession, the wins and losses are too important to you, I think you're missing the boat.
I think it's a wonderful experience. I think every young man that's growing up should have an experience in football. It really makes men out of youth.
He would always use great sports analogies when giving you your life lessons.
Hang in there. And play like gangbusters. Don't take a play off. They're always watching you. Run back to the huddle. You never know when it's going to be your time.
They learned how to play, they did their job, and they just took their life over. These guys would not be voted off to Survivor Island in that new TV show, believe me. They would be cooking muskrats tonight.
As long as older generations are caretakers of the game for their children, the sport of football will continue to be part of America's family.
This NFL Films production has been brought to you by the National Football League. The NFL is online at www.nfl.com.